going on, everyone? Welcome to another video. Oh yeah. Anyway, okay, I am done. Welcome to another video. This is on Apple. So Apple recently had their April 20th event on Tuesday. It was a really good event. They released a crapload of products, AirTags, iMac. Ooh, a new iMac. I didn't expect it, but I also didn't think it wouldn't happen. You know, it couldn't be true, but wouldn't be. I thought they would do the iPad mini before that, but no. Gets little updates here and there, but they need a new one. Really massive update. But anyway, AirTags, iMac, new iPad, just incredible things that they released, and new accessories, and just some services and all of that. So, but here I'm going to talk about the fact that Apple has released a brand new iPad Pro with the M1. Yes, you heard me right, the M1 chip. Man, this is amazing. This is, oh man, I love it. But okay, here we go. Now, this is a watch this before you buy video. This is a buyer's guide. I wanted to create this video because I wanted to kind of give you what this product has. And if you should buy it, why not? If you should not, what kinds of other products are out there, comparing them to the Mac and all kinds of things like that. So let's get started. Now, for the iPad Pro, for the most part, it's got the same, pretty much the same design as the previous versions in the last year, with the 11-inch and 12.9-inch display. Although the 12.9-inch version is 0.1 pounds heavier than the previous model, and it's now weighing in at 1.5 pounds, and it's also thicker than the previous models, and it is now 6.4 millimeters in thickness compared to the 5.9 millimeters on the older 12.9 inch iPad Pro and the current iPad, the current 11-inch iPad. Now, I will say that it is thick, right? And you could say, look, it's thick for it is thicker, but there's quite a few reasons. Now, it's not the 12.9 inch is not only thicker for just that reason, the fact that it's bigger, but the other reason is because of the new mini LED display, and Apple calls it, of course, the Liquid Retina XDR display. We call it the mini LED display, which packs in 10,000 miniature LED lights, which gives it 1 million to 1, gives it a 1 million to 1 contrast ratio with 1,000 nits of full screen brightness and a peak screen brightness of 1600 nits in HDR seeings. Now look, a lot of people are going to say, do I need that? Is that necessary? I think so. I think this is a great addition to the iPad. Just myself, right? Now, on paper, this does look good, and it's usually a major jump in display performance and display technology, but we're gonna have to check that out. Now, the mini LED display with all those 10,000 little miniature LEDs is what makes it bigger, besides the fact that it is 12.9 inches. That's also what makes it a little bit thicker. And the M1 chip, actually. The M1 chip is what makes it bigger, and of course, the mini LED display. Now, the mini LED display is only exclusive to the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. The 11-inch version will still have the same Liquid Retina display as last year's model, with the 600 nits of max brightness, True Tone, ProMotion, and P3 wide color gamut support. Now, both iPads do get the exact same M1 chip, the same exact chip found in the recent Macs. Yes, Apple I thought they were going to go with the A14, maybe A14X chip, which would have been similar, but wouldn't have been as powerful, giving you a difference between iPads. But Apple decided, hell no, we're going to go and give you that nice, hot new chip that we put in these new Macs. Now, it is an insane boost of power from the A12X chip with 50% faster CPU performance and 40% faster graphics, which is incredible. You're getting what you get on the Mac. Now, the M1 also enables other advantages like two times faster storage. Now, with the M1 chip, Apple supercharges the port, upgrading it from a standard USB-C port to Thunderbolt, and that right there is absolutely amazing, right? To a Thunderport, which this now has 40 gigabytes of bandwidth. It adds that, and is now compatible with Thunderbolt accessories like let's see, Thunderbolt docks, external storage, and displays. Now the iPad Pro still comes in with two back cameras, a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, and a 10 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and a new LiDAR scanner that was added in 2020 for AR, so for augmented reality use in games and all of that. Now, there is now a newer they have now added a newer camera to the front of the iPad Pro, which is the ultra wide angle camera. Now, it has a new feature which is called center stage, and this feature uses machine learning to pretty much to actually move the camera position around as you use it for video calls like Zoom, FaceTime, WebEx, Teams, Google Meets, whatever you're using, and it can actually recognize multiple people in a video call and will adjust the position accordingly. Now, look, I love the iPad camera, right? I have the iPad Pro, which is how I edit these videos, but I will tell you right here, right now, that is awesome. Awesome. The fact that it can identify people, those would be really good for really big group FaceTime calls. Like, for example, when you are on FaceTime with your family, like let's say you just do a group FaceTime call because we're still in a pandemic and there are some family members that are still kind of apprehensive of going out or seeing people. So a nice big group Zoom call or a FaceTime call, I could see that working out very, very well. And I would be interested to check out that feature. Now, the iPad will also now comes with the option of adding a 5G cellular modem, so getting the cellular model, but it comes with an additional charge from the standard Wi-Fi model of $200 more than the Wi-Fi model. I will just say this. I don't know. Look, as much as I would love a cellular model, that's what's actually getting me. Because they added $50 more to that model when they didn't need to, just because it had a 5G cellular modem. Now look, in some places with some companies, cellular companies, that works. And they give a lot of incentives to switch to 5G devices like an iPhone or an iPad or an Android phone that has it. But we still don't have the infrastructure in this country, at least, to have 5G. Now, the starting price for the 11-inch is the same as last year, and it is starting at a price tag of $699 for a 128 gigabyte iPad, so 128 gigabytes of storage. Now, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro has an additional price increase because of the mini LED display, and will now start at $100 more, I should say. Wow, that would be a lot more than the last version at $999 at $1,099, which is $100 more than the MacBook Air. So if you think about it, the MacBook Air has insane performance. I would have never advocated for the iPad Air in past videos. and in personally, but that Mac has now been made for greatness. This iPad is now more expensive than a MacBook Air, which is honestly crazy. The fact that Apple would make a tablet more expensive than its most prominent products ever. Well, for work, not the iPhone, because that's its most, right? But here we go. This means that there's a $300 price difference between the base model of the iPad Pro 11-inch and the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Now, the 12.9-inch sounds really amazing. It sounds like a really, really big upgrade, right? You're making a really big upgrade but if you're coming from the 2018 to 2020 iPad Pro, of course you might, right? The mini LED. I should rephrase that. If you're coming from the mini LED or from the 2018 to 2020 iPad Pro, yes, absolutely. You might think, hey, maybe that'll be a big upgrade, and the mini LED display could be amazing. It could be just awesome when you're viewing HDR content, the contrast ratios, the brightness levels, deeper black levels, especially when you go to night mode, black mode, and all of that. That would be amazing, especially with video editing, all kinds of goodies. But again, I must reiterate this. The 12.9 inches, not for everyone. I used to have this attitude, well, it's just the newest iPad, I should get it. It's not going to be for everyone, and you have to be careful with your budget too. Now, while the 11-inch does not have the mini LED display, which I think is stupid. I don't see why that iPad could not get a mini LED display. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe someone who's more tech savvy than I am could explain that to me, but everyone I've talked to said no, they could still do it. But anyway, even though it doesn't have that, it still has a $300 price tag. It's still cheaper than the 12.9-inch model because it at a $300 price tag less. So it's $300 cheaper, and it's still a compelling purchase. Now, if you have, the 2018, 2020 iPad Pro, I don't know that it's enough to warrant a purchase of this kind of thing. I think you can wait one more year for the 11-inch iPad Pro and hope it comes with that mini LED display. Now, if you did want the newer thing with the LiDAR scanner and you wanted a 2020 iPad Pro and maybe you wanted all of that, then yes, you could absolutely go for this 2021 iPad Pro. Now, I will say that if you're getting the 11-inch iPad Pro, it still comes with the M1 chip. So if you're looking for that power, that like, oh yes, I really want it, and you really want to test out, if you did a Geekbench, if you wanted to edit a couple videos on it, maybe you wanted to check out the 120 hertz display, maybe whatever you wanted to do, it is still a compelling purchase. If you wanted this iPad Pro 11-inch, you still get that chip performance. You still get performance in CPU and GPU. You get all of that. So yeah, if you are concentrated in saying, I want a performance jump like no other, then yeah, get the M1 iPad Pro 11-inch. Now, it also comes to say, wow, why would they do that, right? Why would Apple do that? We're going to go over that. Now, there are some differences in the storage tiers. The 128, 256, and 512 gigabyte options of the iPad Pro all come with 8 gigabytes of memory. That is incredible. That is 2 gigabytes more than the previous A12Z iPad Pro. Now, Apple does not tell you this on their website, but the 1 and 2 terabyte versions of the iPad Pro both basically come with double the RAM, 16 gigabytes of memory. Now, maybe I'm just not that tech savvy, but if you listen to Max Talks Tech, Greg's Gadgets, Zolotech, Zone of Tech, Tailosive Tech, maybe Justine, but she's just all Apple, so she's just going to have a positive review no matter what. But all of those guys will tell you, we don't know, I don't really know why they're giving us more memory in this iPad than 8 gigabytes. I think 8 gigabytes is just fine. It's perfect for an iPad. But again, Apple is trying to tell you, well, why get a computer? You can get an iPad, which is a computer. And they want to make it to where it acts like a computer. I haven't seen an application that would require, if I'm going to be honest, 2 gigabytes, 1 gigabyte of RAM, even 16, like just a or 1 gigabyte, 1 terabyte. I'm sorry, I need a. It's late. 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes. I don't know why they would need it, but there you go. Now, as I said, 8 gigabytes sounds fine. The iPad does. Now, it's fine with what it does with the iPad OS 14 update for everything that we need it for. Whether you're using, any AR kits, whether you're using any kind of art apps or whatever you're using, it's a perfectly fine set of storage for iPad OS 14. Now, here's the thing. I don't really see Apple adding this much memory and this big of an upgrade to the iPad unless they are planning something big, a big upgrade with iPad OS 15. And that upgrade might be where they let us use Mac apps on the iPad, like Final Cut Pro or even Logic Pro. That would be amazing because whenever I need to use Final Cut Pro, I don't really want to have to get on my Mac. I prefer to edit on the iPad, especially with the Magic Keyboard that does all the same keystrokes as the Mac. That would be amazing. Also, I don't see why we can't use the Mac apps on the iPad when we've already got the M1 chip. We got the M1 chip. The M1 chip. I'm pretty sure we can do this. Now when we add up the extra Pro accessories, right? iPad Pro accessories, like the Magic Keyboard, like with the 12.9-inch version being $350, and the 12.9-inch at $1,099, you get a $1,449 price tag in one, which is $150 more than your MacBook Pro with the M1 chip, which has half of that storage. It makes no sense that the iPad has half of it and it's still getting way more. You're paying more for it. Now, even without the keyboard, the iPad 12.9-inch the iPad Pro 12.9-inch is $100 more than the M1 MacBook Air. That's crazy, right? Now, even though the iPad comes with one extra GPU core in the base model, the MacBook Air and the iPad Pro will perform similarly. For example, there are no fans in the MacBook Air and there are no fans in the iPad Pro. So it makes kind of no sense why they would make them as expensive, more expensive. But again, you're going to get a similar performance, right? Now, the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro can't do all the things that iPad can do. For example, iPad has a touchscreen. And what can you do with a touchscreen? If you want to draw on the iPad with an Apple Pencil, well, there's just no MacBook on the market that can compete. You cannot draw on it. It's not a touchscreen. It's not meant for that. Now, you do have virtual paintbrushes and pencils and things like that you can draw on. Draw a picture with or whatever you need to. But if you're really into art and all of that, need a blank canvas, the iPad's going to go for you. So if you're into that iPad because you just want to draw and that's what you're going for, I would recommend the iPad if I'm going to be honest with you. Now, the iPad still has advantages in hardware. For example, you have the 120 Hertz ProMotion display and a new mini LED display on the 12.9-inch models, which are better displays than the displays on the MacBook models and can get up to 1,000 nits of brightness, which might look better in direct sunlight, or maybe the MacBook Pro really wouldn't look like that, right? It wouldn't look as good. So again, there are some differences. Now, if you think that these iPads are a little too expensive and you really are trying to go down from these and you say, look, the iPad Pro models are just way too expensive, Jason, I wish Apple had other products. I don't know what to get. Well, not to worry, I got you. You can still get the latest iPad Air, which shares a lot of the design traits of the iPad Pro, but comes with the weaker. It does come with the weaker, but still respectable and powerful enough A14 processor, has Touch ID on the power button instead of Face ID, and it loses the 120 hertz ProMotion display. So you would get all of that, the Face ID and the ProMotion and the M1 chip performance in the iPad Pro. But if you're not really focused on that and you're okay with the A14 Touch ID instead of Face ID, losing the ProMotion display, 120 hertz display, then go ahead and get the iPad Air. You still get a lot for that price. It retails at $599 for the 64 gigabyte for the 64 gigabyte model, and it is compatible with the iPad Pro accessories like the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil 2nd generation. So if you're thinking, hey, I would like to have the iPad Pro experience but at a cheaper price, well, it's almost the iPad Pro experience at a $200 price difference. It's $200 less than the iPad Pro. And I mean, come on, that's what you need. If you're thinking, look, man, I really want to have something that's a lot less, well, guess what? You're going to have that with the iPad Air. But you'll still get that, maybe not the same performance, but I got to tell you, I've used the iPad Air 4. It is quite a beautiful device. It does incredibly well. And if I were to suggest something to someone who maybe wants that Pro experience but is trying to save a little bit of money, I would definitely get the iPad Air. Now, if you're still thinking, Jason, that's still a lot of money, all of those are way too much money, I don't know what to get. Well, not to worry, because yes, Apple has made it a lot more difficult to get an iPad now because there's so many models. I don't know what to get. Well, there's a lot that you can get. First off, you can get the base model iPad. It has an older display. It's compatible with the older iPad Pro accessories, like the first Apple Pencil. Now, and cases. It still has the A12 chip, and it is still the best tablet on the market, and it runs at a $329 price tag for a 32 gigabyte model. So that, I know this video is a little long, but that is what comes with the iPad Pro 11-inch and 12.9-inch mini LED display, and you get the M1 chip. This is just a buyer's guide. I will most likely make another video on the Geekbench and all of that just to talk about that. So I will now cover, hopefully in the next couple days, a iMac video. Stay tuned for that because Apple did great with that too.